around here. There's a bunch of crooks around here.
You ain't supposed to be in that jail, boy. Get out of there, man.
No, that's a total no, man. Bad coming.
Is my salary going up?
The Bahamian people got to wake up.
This is my 5 cents and I approve this message.
The Prime Minister defends the appointment of Dame Marguerite Pinley as the next Governor General. The FNM and DNA take the Deputy Prime Minister to task for his latest 10,000 jobs remark. More concerns over chikungunya fever. Plus, a local artist honors the nation's fallen heroes. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. Topping news tonight, since the government's announcement that Dame Marguerite Pinley will be the next Governor General, there's been mixed reaction. Well, today, Prime Minister Perry Christie said Dame Marguerite Pinley will prove to be as good as any past Governor General. Simone Davis reports.
History will be made tomorrow as Dame Marguerite Pinley, the wife of the first Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Sir Lynden Pinley, is sworn into office as the new Governor General of the Bahamas. Prime Minister Perry Christie said that despite the mixed reactions of those who oppose Pinley as the new Governor General, she is historically in her own right to wear the title.
One wants to be very careful with how one speaks to this issue because the appointment is done by the Queen. And even though constitutionally the government or the Prime Minister has the moving figure in this whole thing, it has to be approved by the Queen. And one does not want to, at this stage, go beyond that because from this moment forward, or the moment of her swearing in, she's a Governor General for all the people of the Bahamas and not for one segment of the people of the Bahamas. And I think the Bahamian people will see that. And, you know, for me, it's the last of the majority rule fighters. And she, in her own right, was a fighter, not just as a supporter of her husband, but she was one of those figures who fought for that, like Arthur Folks fought for it. And she has been recognized, and in fact, for her own role historically, in her own right historically.
Since the announcement that Dame Marguerite would be the new Governor General, DNA leader Branville McCartney believed that appointing her does not speak well of the Bahamas in light of her recent tax delinquency. Christie said that the PLP could have opposed to anyone appointed by the FNM, but they chose not to because Dame Marguerite will prove to be as good as those who came before her.
People of the country have to recognize that the PLP could have been in opposition to anyone appointed by the FNM, but we chose not to do that because the Governor General is the Governor General of all the country. So happens to me personally, Dame Ivy, when she got married, lived about 50 yards from my house. So I knew her and Reg Dumont well and their families. Orville Tenquist presented me to the bar. So when he became an FNM Governor General, so to speak, FNM appointed Governor General, it was another person who I respected and admired and knew, and Arthur Folks no different. And so just as I took that approach to them, I would expect the members of opposition or people who didn't like it. But you know what's going to happen? There is a good God, and I am satisfied, right, that she will prove to be as good as anyone who's been in that office before.
PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts said that he is excited that Dame Marguerite has been appointed Governor General because she has supported her husband as the first Prime Minister, and given her experience and what they have done as a couple, she will be a good Governor General to the Bahamas.
I think it's an excellent choice. I'm ecstatic. Dame Marguerite came from humble beginnings in Long Bay Key, Andros, and is now ascending to Mount Vincent. I think her choice is an excellent one of which all Bahamians can be proud. Dame Marguerite was the wife of Sir Lynden Oscar Pinley, the modern founder of the Bahamas, and she was his partner every step of the way.
Roberts also said that the recent tax delinquencies that Dame Marguerite was faced with will not interfere with her role as Governor General, and the public should not hold it against her. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
And the Prime Minister today speaking out again about the criticisms of his administration by the latest U.S. State Department report. Christie maintained the report is fundamentally inaccurate, and it appears the Bahamas is being held to a standard that is not expected of any other country.
I'm always surprised when they set a standard that they would not want anyone else to be able to go. I mean, for example, I should be talking about how many failed promises President Barack Obama had. It just doesn't make any kind of sense to me that they would go there.
The report, titled 2014 Investment Climate Statement, raised concerns about a reported lack of transparency and undue government interference in the Christie administration's bidding and procurement processes. The report also highlighted the government's failure to fulfill many of its ambitious campaign promises of economic and fiscal reform. Immediately after the report's release, the opposition raised the alarm, with Shadow Finance Minister Peter Turnquest calling the report an indictment on the Christie administration. F&M Chairman Darren Cash branded the Prime Minister dazed and confused for his initial comment that he was puzzled by the report. Cash said the Bahamas government has been found wanting. However, Labor Minister Shane Gibson suggested the F&M had a hand in the report. He accused Hank Ferguson, son of former F&M Chairman John Lee Ferguson, of authoring the report, a charge that U.S. Embassy officials quickly denied. Christie said today, regardless of who authored the report, it appears there was a bias. He said the report does not reflect conversations he has had with U.S. Chargé d'Affaires John Dinkelman.
I think the author of the report was sort of personalizing it, whatever the author's personal view was that they put there, and that view was jaundiced, and sadly to say, it was really, they interfered where they ought not to, no matter what they say on that. That it was a mistake on their part to do that, and people have commented contemptuously about what they did and the way they did it. I mean, because it doesn't reflect the discussions I've been having with the Chargé d'Affaires, Mr. Dinkelman. Nowhere does it reflect that, and that's why I was so surprised, and I used the word puzzled by it.
Christie noted that last week, Acting Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis met with U.S. Embassy officials to discuss the concerns surrounding the report. Christie said the Bahamas, like other countries, may have its problems with certain U.S. policies, such as the alleged phone call recordings, but he stressed the Bahamas and the United States have always maintained good relations and will move past this issue.
The Americans are very close friends of the Bahamas. We are allies. We are intertwined. To a great extent, we're kith and kin in terms of our relationship. And this too will pass. And we have some problematical matters, as other countries have, with some of the policies of the United States of America in terms of listening and taping telephone calls or listening to telephone calls and trying to get an answer to it. And these are matters that I think we will talk frankly with our friends about.
Well, when the lights went out on New Providence last Thursday, the Prime Minister was in Antigua attending a CARICOM heads of government meeting. But he said once he was made aware of the situation around 10 p.m., he made contact with BEC Chairman Leslie Miller, who was at the Blue Hills station. Christie said he maintained contact with Miller throughout the night every 45 minutes until around 4 a.m. Christie told reporters the matter is being looked into and the government is aware such a situation must be avoided in the future.
I'm still puzzled as to how you could have an island-wide failure and that no system is supposed to totally collapse at the same time. And, the confluence of events just puzzled me as to how it happened. And listen, it's something that we're looking into. I've spoken to the powers that be, and it's a matter that we have to avoid.
In other news, officials from the Free National Movement and Democratic National Alliance are weighing in on recent comments made by Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis, who recently said more than 10,000 jobs have been created by the PLP. Both F&M Deputy Chairman Dwayne Sands and DNA Deputy Leader Chris Mortimer say Davis's numbers simply don't add up. Jasmine Brown has more in this report.
would ask the question of whether the lofty office that he holds is getting to his head. You know, it must be the thin air of that lofty office, because certainly there is not a single Bahamian that believes the nonsense that came out of his mouth in that interview this morning.
Sands and Mortimer's comments come in response to statements made by the Deputy Prime Minister, who recently said his ministry has already created more than 10,000 jobs. Davis also insisted he created more than 10,000 jobs just in the contracts and works he's given out from his ministry. Both men called on Davis to back up the claims.
I think it's simple to say to the Deputy Prime Minister, you know, you're entitled to your opinion, but we expect facts from our executives and our leaders. We don't want them to just say, I created jobs in my ministry. You're entitled to your opinion. But when you report to the people, we want you to back up your statements with facts, because we hire you for the facts.
The issue of the promised 10,000 jobs has been raised repeatedly over the last 2 years. Davis, at a rally in Hatchet Bay, Eleuthera, made the pledge on April 19, 2012. He urged voters to vote for a PLP government that is ready to create 10,000 immediate new jobs for young Bahamians. Mortimer, who is also a successful businessman, says he finds it hard to believe so many jobs could have been created in such a sluggish economy.
Environment doesn't lend itself to the creation of jobs in this country. And part of that is right in the Deputy Prime Minister's portfolio. No business, I don't care what size the business is, whether it's Atlantis or whether it's some small mom and pop shop.
Meantime, Sands added that despite Davis' claims, the facts are clearly outlined in the most recent statistics. According to data from the Department of Statistics, 3,265 net jobs were added to the economy between May 2012 and November 2013. According to the most recent labor force survey released in February, 166,595 people were employed in the Bahamas in November 2013, when the survey was last conducted, compared to 163,330 people who were employed when the survey was conducted in May 2012.
They published labor statistics for May of 2012, May of 2013, November of 2013. And based on the numbers that I recall, from May 2012 until November of 2013, at best, the total labor force employed increased by about 2,600. If the Deputy Prime Minister is now saying that from November 2013 until July the 6th, 2014, that he has created 7,500 jobs, I put it to him that the Bahamian people ought to see that verified by the Department of Statistics.
A new labor force survey is expected to be released on July 11th. Reporting for NV12, I'm Jasmine Brown.
When NV12 returns, calls for the government to step up its preventative campaign in the wake of the country's first confirmed case of chikungunya fever. Stay with us.